Hi guys, it's album review time. We've got the band H.E.A.T and Force Majeure. Let's talk about one of the best albums of the year so far. So a bit of my history first with H.E.A.T. Been a fan since the beginning, since the debut album in 2008. H.E.A.T started with Kenny Lacremo on vocals, made two albums. The second one, Freedom Rock, in 2010. Now I think the band were a different band back then. We'll get on to the vocalists, the history behind the vocalists in a minute, but I don't think anything to do with Kenny Lacremo on vocals. I think the band were just a different band altogether. And in that Freedom Rock album, I think they lost some of their energy. It sort of carried on with the same sort of thing from their excellent debut album H.E.A.T, but lost a bit of energy, a little bit of direction, I would say. Didn't really know where the band was going to go. I didn't, anyway, listening to that album. And then in comes Eric Gromwall. So Eric Gromwall, formerly, I think he was in Swedish Idol, something like that. You can catch us and stuff on YouTube if you want to catch that. It's quite interesting to look at. But he entered that competition. Not sure if he won exactly, but he then joined the band in for the 2012 album Address the Nation, and it did really energize the band. It turned them into a harder edged band, melodic hard rock, and I think it catapulted the band into one of the best bands around, not just in Sweden, but in general. They carried on that brilliant album by making the next album, which was Tearing Down the Walls, 2014. Another favourite H.E.A.T album of mine, superb album. They went in a bit of a different direction in 2017 with Into the Great Unknown, bit of a poppier sound. When you know, I mean, I thought there was some good tracks on that, but it wasn't, for me, it went off the rails a little bit. But some of the best tracks they've written, but not enough of them on that album. Usually an album front to back by H.E.A.T is superb, but there was some standout tracks. And then went back almost to their melodic hard rock sound that we love H.E.A.T doing in 2020 with H.E.A.T 2. And then we thought all things were fine. The band were going well, produced one of the best albums of the year in my opinion. Then Eric Gromwall left. I for one was gutted, thinking, oh my God, you know what I mean? He is just one superb vocalist. He's now joined Skid Row. I don't think he left the band to join Skid Row because that's come very recently, and good luck to Eric, because now we've got a great band in Skid Row again by the sounds of it. Album out later this year. I for one was worried about Kenny being the band, not because Kenny anything to do with his vocals, but mainly because of the way I'm wondering what the band were going to do next. Were they going to go back to their original sound, or were they going to carry on with this sound they found with Eric in the band? This energetic, melodic hard rock band, sometimes quite heavy, always catchy, so energy fueled, unbelievable band. So one of my best bands, you know, one of my favourite bands of all time. So, had a couple of singles out now before the album release, which came out yesterday, August the 5th, and straight away, so impressed with the first three singles. I think it's three singles that have come out so far. It's just kept with that, you know, that H.E.A.T sound that I love. The energy's ramped up, the hooks are ramped up, the choruses are huge. Kenny sounds absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'm so happy to say that this album is one of the best of their career. I haven't spent enough time with it now to say, you know, it is their best or it's in number 2 place or whatever, but on 2 listens so far, it ranks up there with the best music they've ever done, and I'm so happy about that. You know, they are a fantastic band, and if anyone hasn't heard them yet, they are amazing. Their catalogue is absolutely amazing. Every album is great, but obviously, you know, I've got favourites, and I would say this one for sure is one of my favourites. So Kenny Lacremo on vocals, so amazing vocal performance on this album. I'd say the best over the 3 H.E.A.T albums. He just sounds amazing. He really does. He looks super fit as well, so that probably helps in his vocal style. You know, he really looks, you know, he's energetic. Seeing some live stuff of him. He sounds great live as well. So he's not just in the studio. This guy is an amazing performer, amazing frontman. Just does a brilliant job on this album. Dave DeLone on the guitar. Kenny does a bit of guitar as well. The guitar, this is a guitar-driven album, guys. All right, there's synths in it. You've got Jonah T, who's one of the, you know, the main songwriters, obviously. But this is a guitar-driven album. It's heavy at times, but there's synths backing it up. But they're always done brilliantly. The only time synths really took over, I would say, was probably on some of the album Into the Great Unknown, but now they are back to full guitar driven stuff, just like they did on H.E.A.T too. Jimmy J on the bass and Don Crash on the drums. Well, these guys are in one of the best bands in the world, so they're going to be good, aren't they? There's some real stomping rhythms in this. There's some real groove about a few of the tracks. I'm going to go through the tracks in a minute, but just an amazing performance by everyone in the band, and of course Jonah T. What an amazing songwriter, keyboardist, musician altogether. He's a great artist, one of the best in the world, I would say. So if you ain't familiar with the band, who do they sound like? Well, they sound like the best of Swedish bands, you know, that at the round at the moment. Crash Diet have brought out, in my opinion, the best album of their career this year. So, you know, I can put them along bands like Crash Diet, Crazy Licks, and especially Eclipse. H.E.A.T and Eclipse, I mean, I always go on about these bands. They're probably my top melodic hard rock bands, you know. Now, they are the best. And H.E.A.T have just strengthened that. They really have. They've pushed Eclipse and H.E.A.T I see as the top melodic hard rock bands in the world. Just amazing, you know, and they should be filling stadiums everywhere across the world. I know that they're a popular band, but really don't get the praise and the audience they deserve. You know, I think part of that is just people stuck 35 years ago and won't give new bands a chance. I think if they did, H.E.A.T would be one of their favourite bands. Getting on to what else they sound like, I would say Whitesnake and Europe. If you want to, they've got that little bit of infused in their music for sure. Obviously they take some 80s, you know, influence, but they really sound modern at the same time. They're the best band at that, you know, including Eclipse. They really take that 80s edge or songwriting, but have that edge of now. You know, they've got that modern production. The album sounds brilliant, by the way. Although H.E.A.T 2, I think, was one of the best albums of that year. The production, for me, could have been better, and it was great. It was almost too clean. It doesn't make any sense. Almost too perfect. I think this gives this album, the production's more, it's not raw, but it has got a more energy about it. It sounds more like a live band, not overproduced or anything like that. It's got a great sound. I always look for the drum sound. That does a lot for me in modern production. Sometimes the drums don't sound very good on some albums. This one, it sounds brilliant. The snare drum sounds excellent. That's one of the main things I look for in the sound of an album. So the production is just spot on. One of the best produced albums I've heard H.E.A.T do easily. Maybe the best produced album I've heard H.E.A.T do. So, getting on to the album itself, I am going to talk about every song because it's such a great album. Every song I love. But you do start with 2 singles, Back to the Rhythm and Nationwide. Both of these singles were excellent. Back to the Rhythm starts the album. Back to the rhythm of, back to the rhythm of fire, back to the rhythm of. Just love this. It's a stomping, rocking track, catchy, huge, anthemic. Every song on here is anthemic, by the way. And then we go into Nationwide. Do or die, you're the first in line. We could be now until forever. Nationwide. It's a faster track. This is the second track. Doesn't hold back on energy or melody though. Brilliant stuff. I have done reactions to both of those songs, so you can check them out. Tainted Blood. This is the first song off the album that I haven't heard yet. So blown away. Absolutely blown away. And, you know, I was waiting to... I've always said, like, when the 3 singles came out, this sort of stamps that what they're all about now. You're not... I don't think they're going to stray too much from the path of brilliance on those singles. And I wasn't wrong. Tainted Blood is one of the best songs on the album. This is the 3rd track in. Excellent medium pace stomping track. Amazing vocal performance by Gromwall all the way through this album, by the way. It doesn't get much better than this song. It really doesn't. It does on this album, but I mean in general in the music scene. Songs I like, I think songs like this like solidify why they are one of the best bands around at the moment. They really do. Another single is next, Hollywood.
We can't be understood, 'cause we live as we learn from Hollywood.
Although I've heard some great music lately coming out of the US, and it made me think about this because obviously the just title of the song. America ain't what it used to be music-wise, but saying that, there's some great music, like I said, coming out lately. I've heard some brilliant bands coming out of America. But this just shows you why Sweden almost lead the way now. It's the greatest country for melodic hard rock music, in my opinion. I mean, there's just album after album, band after band are just coming out of that country. It's just unbelievable. So catchy. The vocal melodies in that chorus is just infectious. Harder to Breathe is next. This is an epic, slow to medium paced track. It's a brilliant song. Those verses are just amazing. An excellent chorus that even somehow matches the verses. One of my favourites so far. Wings of an Aeroplane. A medium paced track. Excellent, typical sounding H.E.A.T track though. You know, the H.E.A.T signature sound, if you like, is all over this album. And that's what I love. There's been no let up of brilliance so far on this amazing album. We're at track 6. You can hear those Europe influences, I would say, pulling through here. An excellent medium paced track. Not for Sale is track 7. That H.E.A.T formula again, working brilliantly, stomping, melodic hard rock played by, you know, these musicians. They're at the top of their game. At this point, I think the album, even though before this you would say, but it's just sort of, when you get to this point, it's just gone through past the midway point and you're on track 7. This sort of confirms that this is one of the best of their career. By this time, you know, this is what H.E.A.T are about now. One of Us, a ballad. We knew a ballad was going to come, and it's excellent. You get piano and vocal start. Gromwall sounds amazing, so much passion in his voice. He's got a lot of soul in his voice as well. Although he can hit those heights, he's got so much soul and feeling in his voice as well. This song is a huge sounding one. H.E.A.T have always written brilliant ballads, they really have, but this is no exception as well. It's got a great 80s sort of sounding stomp to it. Once it gets going, like a slow stomp, it's amazing. Hold Your Fire is track 9, a brilliant sort of blues-infused melodic hard rock track. The groove of this track is just so good. It sounds like the band are really having fun. It has so far, but on this track in particular, it's a great track. Paramount is track 10, another huge sounding track with those Europe influences, I would say, creeping in, especially in the verses. One of the catchiest choruses you will ever hear. It really is. So usually when you get the back of the album, you're looking at, I don't know, less powerful songs, less catchy songs maybe. Not in this case. It's brilliant stuff. And then we close with Demon Eyes, the final track, fastest track on the album, the most guitar driven track on the album, the most rockiest track on the album. Energy is just ramped up to the max. A little bit of a 70s influence, I would say, on this. Just amazing stuff. It really is. It almost reminds me, you know, remember the old days when like bands like this, melodic hard rock bands in the 80s used to stick a really fast track on the end of their albums. TNT is probably one of the artists I'm thinking of on the Tell No Tales album. They put the Tell No Tales track on the end and it's one of the fastest things. It's almost like, yeah, we're going to rock you out, make you look forward to the next album. This is an amazing album, guys. Anyone who's into melodic hard rock would love this. And of course, you know, people that listen to music now and modern music, in as far as melodic hard rock is concerned, they will probably get this album or know about the band and love them. You know, how can you not love this band? But I just, you know, anyone who's watching this channel who won't give new music a chance. So anyone, you know, who won't go any further than, you know, Skid Row, or, you know, they stop then because they don't think there's any good music anymore or anything like that. Just, you know, you need to stop now and listen to this album. If you think about this album, I mean, if you transported this back, I know the production is amazing. You probably wouldn't hear an album like this in the 80s. The production would probably be maybe too good. But the music-wise, you know, if you transported this album way back then, it'd be one of the best albums you've heard in the whole decade of the 80s, for sure. An amazing melodic hard rock album that will be, for definite, in my top albums of the year. I don't exactly know where yet, because of the strength of music this year. It's just amazing, but this is another album that is just an excellent part of H.E.A.T's catalogue, and is surely one of the best albums they've ever written. And I would say front to back, the consistency of the songs blows me away. Even on the best of Eric Gromwall albums, there was maybe one or two tracks I was like, I don't know, it's not as good. But this seems like it's so solid all the way through. An amazing album, guys. Please check this out. It's H.E.A.T, it's Force Majeure. It's amazing. See you soon.